Low point for the Patriots. Washington and his forces had managed to escape the British. As winter approached, however, the British cause was near collapse, or the Patriot cause was near collapse. The Continental Army had fewer than 5,000 soldiers left, and many had completed their terms. Others had simply run away. Washington wrote his brother that if new soldiers were not found soon, I think the game is pretty near up. Yet he remained hopeful that the fight for freedom would succeed. Washington begged the Continental Congress for more troops. He suggested allowing free African Americans to enlist, but many Americans opposed this idea. Early in the war, the southern colonies had persuaded Congress not to take this step. Many white people in the South worried about giving guns and training to African Americans. They feared the possible revolt among the enslaved population. African Americans in battle. The growing need for soldiers left some states to ignore the ban on African Americans. Rhode Island raised an all-African American regiment in 1778. By the war's end, every state except South Carolina enlisted African Americans to fight. Historians believe that as many as 5,000 African Americans joined the Patriots. One example was Peter Salem, an enslaved African American from Massachusetts. Salem fought at Concord in the Battle of Bunker Hill and served the Patriot cause throughout the war. In return for his service, Salem won his freedom. African Americans had many reasons to fight. Some fought because they believed in the Patriot cause. Others joined up for the chance to earn money. Some were enslaved African Americans who had run away or who, like Salem, were allowed by their owners to enlist. Battles of Trenton and Princeton. While the Patriots were struggling through the winter, the main British force was settled in New York. The British had also left some troops in Princeton and Trenton, New Jersey. Washington saw a chance to catch the British by surprise. Washington was camped in Pennsylvania across the Delaware River from the British camp in New Jersey. On Christmas night, 1776, Washington led 2,400 troops across the icy river to surprise the enemy at Trenton the next day. Washington then escaped and marched to Princeton. His army scattered the British force there. The British strategy. In 1777, the British began a three-pronged battle plan. Their goal was to seize Albany, New York, and gain control of the Hudson River. If they gained control of the Hudson, they would cut off New England from the middle colonies. First, General John Burgoyne would lead troops south from Canada. At the same time, Lieutenant Colonel Barry Lastigler, I'm not sure about that name, would move east from Lake Ontario. And a third group under General Howe would move north up the Hudson. The third British force would then attack Patriot troops at Albany. The British capture Philadelphia. Before the attack on Albany, Howe sought to capture Philadelphia, the home of the Continental Congress. Howe won battles in September 1776 at Brandywine and at Paoli, near Philadelphia. Then Howe's troops captured Philadelphia, forcing the Continental Congress to flee. By now, winter was coming, and Howe decided to stay in Philadelphia instead of going to Albany. The Battle of Saratoga. Meanwhile, the British plan for taking Albany was in trouble, and in August, American soldiers, led by Benedict Arnold, stopped at St. Leger at Fort Stanwix in New York. General Burgoyne's army hadn't reached Albany either, and in July, he captured Fort Ticonderoga, but needed supplies. He sent a force of Americans to a supply base at Bennington, Vermont. A local militia group called the Green Mountain Boys defeated them. Burgoyne retreated to Saratoga, New York. Here Burgoyne found himself in serious trouble and alone. Patriots had stopped St. Leger at Fort Stanwix. Howe was still in Philadelphia, and now the Americans under General Horatio Gates blocked and surrounded Burgoyne's army. Burgoyne had made a desperate attack on October the 7th. The Patriots held firm. On October 17, 1777, General Burgoyne surrendered. The British plan had failed, and the Continental Army had won an enormous victory that changed the course of the war.